Welcome to another edition of the Chief Audit Executive Briefing. Hey, in this week, I wanted to follow up again and talk a little bit more about risk-based internal auditing. And you're going to hear me talk a lot about this. And again, some of you may be wondering, why are you even talking about this? This is kind of old news. We understand it. The reason I'm talking about it is I think there's a lot of misconceptions and myths about it. And in fact, when I'm actually looking at working with other chief audit executives, working with internal audit teams, and I dig a little bit deeper, I find out that they're not actually doing risk-based auditing. Now, here's some of the problems around that. And these are some things that we're seeing in the industry in general. And when I explain these, you'll see why I'm talking more about risk-based internal auditing. Because here's the reality. I teach lots of people on the CIA. I have a CIA review course that helps people to be able to prepare and pass the exam so they can get certified. And I've got to tell you, honestly, the information in the material and the information about risk-based audit that is on the CIA exam, in my opinion, is actually wrong. Okay, but I have to actually teach that to help people pass the exam. So what I'm doing now is through different means, I'm actually teaching you what it actually means. And again, because I think there's a lot of myths and misconceptions around that. Now, to talk about why I'm talking about this, let's talk about some of the challenges that we have currently in our profession. We see that internal audit continues to be stuck down in the weeds. We're down at low levels in the organization. We're doing good audit work. But for the executive management team, they're thinking, why are you focusing on those little things way down in the organization? And we continue to get stuck there. And part of the reason is we're not using a true risk-based approach. And that's why we're so far down. Now, we're also seeing that management is believing that internal audit is not adding as much value. And some of you may say, what? That doesn't sound right. Well, from lots of different surveys that have been done, executive management has a much lower view of internal audit, much less believing that we're adding significant value than what we believe. I mean, it's usually about 40% lower than what we think, which means there's something going on there. They're not seeing that we're adding as much value as we believe we are. And that's an issue that we have to address. Now, what we're seeing from that is a lot of internal audit groups are becoming obsolete or getting downgraded. So what does that mean? Well, if executive management does not believe that you're adding value the way they need the value, they're going to start new departments that do a lot of the work that internal audit used to do. Or what they'll do is cut back on the internal audit resources. And so we've seen this in a lot of different positions where the chief audit executive used to be maybe a senior vice president or a vice president. And those positions, after the person leaves, when they're being refilled, you see those actually downgraded. So instead of hiring a vice president level as a chief audit executive, the next go around, it's a director level position. Less money, less exposure in the organization, reporting lower and lower in the organization. And again, as I said, we're seeing this quite a bit throughout our profession, and it's a challenge that we really have to address. And one of the ways that we can do that is through doing more truly risk-based auditing. Because when you do that, you align much more with management, with the key objectives of the organization that they are dealing with at a much higher strategic kind of level instead of getting stuck down in the weeds. Now, when we do that and when we are actually able to increase and improve our soft skills along with our technical skills, we can actually start to be seen as a trusted advisor in the organization. Because what we're doing is more, again, risk-based, focused on the key objectives, and we're moving away from the traditional historical auditing into something that is much more proactive, which is exactly what management needs. Okay, so again, that's why you're going to be hearing me talk a lot more about risk-based internal auditing. There'll be more webinars, more things on the podcast about this, because again, it's an area that I really feel passionate about. And I think that the old traditional internal audit model that a lot of people continue to use and that continues to be propelled forward by some of the professional service firms and other organizations is actually hurting the profession. And we need to wake up and actually do things a little different. So that's why I'm talking more about this. You're going to see more about it. And I've included some links down below if you want to go in a little bit deeper to learn more about what I'm talking about in more depth. Because again, in just a couple minute video, I can't really give you everything that I'm thinking about. So with that, go out, have a great week, and hope to see you on some of the things that are coming up around risk-based internal auditing. We'll see you later.